Welcome to part 2. In part 2, we're going to look at the text under discussion, complete catch, and answer our text-based questions. Let's begin by reading the text, completing the first part of catch, looking specifically for those annotations that we noted in part 1. So we'll be looking for the words we don't know, asking questions, talking to the text, seeking out and capturing the main idea, and highlighting or underlining the supporting details. Let's begin with the text. I've always liked to draw. In fact, I'm one of the few cartoonists still around who drew comic magazines when they first came out way back in the late 1930s. Do you want to know why I became a cartoonist? Wow, already I have a thought and a question. So my thought right here would be, I like to draw too. And then my question or my thought here would be, I didn't know cartoons have been around so long. Now you can use my thoughts here just as a practice, or you can write your own. But from this point forward, you should really be looking for your own thoughts and questions and words that you don't know. I'll continuing modeling, but remember, this should be words and thoughts that you have, not the ones that I have. Let's keep reading. I was somewhat shy when I was a kid. If I was called on in school, I'd stutter and stammer. Sometimes tears would even come out of my eyes. And I didn't think I was very good looking. My hair was always in disarray. I didn't have any cute freckles, and my nose was a little long. In other words, I didn't think I was as attractive as some of my friends were. One thing I could do, though, was draw. So when I was in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, that was how I could get the girls to take notice of me. I had a sense of humor, and when I'd draw little cartoons, the girls would look at what I was drawing. Some of them would even ask me to draw for them on their notebooks. This is funny. And for me, this reminds me of some of my students, but for you, it might remind you of some of your classmates. One day in 7th grade, the teacher was asking questions. I was paying attention, but I was also drawing a cartoon of a cowboy or something, and the teacher saw it. She came over and accused, I'm having a hard time right now with the word accused, but I might be able to figure it out with some context clues. She came over and accused me of not listening. Then said, "Now tell everybody what I was talking about." I was able to come out with 100% of what she'd said. Then she took my drawing and stood up in front of the class and said, "How about that? Not only can Martin talk about the subject, but he was able to draw while he was listening." I'm going to add a thought here. That was pretty impressive. I don't think everyone can do that. That was how my career got started. I liked to draw. I had a good sense of humor, and I was able to attract some attention. I guess it didn't matter that I couldn't do anything with my hair. Now, if I think about capturing the main idea and highlighting the supporting details, this last section really stands out to me. All throughout this passage, I was learning about how this character really likes to draw. And so this last part really shows that not only is this character like to draw, but that this is how they got started. They talk about how they have a good sense of humor, they were able to attract some attention. And it didn't matter that they couldn't do anything else, right? Didn't matter that they weren't attractive or other things. So I could go back and I can find some more examples of these, right? So if I look here, I remember that the kid was shy in school. He wasn't very good looking, so he was generally just not as attractive. He didn't feel very good at things. So I would maybe underline, I wasn't very good looking, or I was somewhat shy when I was a kid. And then I see one thing that I could do was draw. Okay, that might be a detail that supports my ideas. It was how he could get girls to take notice of me, right? And then it says when he had a sense of humor, He was able to work and do his drawings. And I saw that here. So it says he was able to draw while he was listening. I think these are really important points. Let's go back to the text. We'll reread through the passage, and this time we'll start answering some of the text-based questions on the margins. Let's go ahead and begin. Before I read the first chunk again, I'm going to make sure I know what I'm looking for. So I'll start by looking at my questions. Number 1 says, based on the first paragraph, what is the topic of this article? This word topic is really important. I know that topic is different from the main idea because the topic is talking about what the article is about, whereas the main idea discusses the most important point. Let's reread until first stop. I've always liked to draw. In fact, I'm one of the few cartoonists still around who drew comic magazines when they first came out way back in the late 1930s. Do you want to know why I became a cartoonist? So in terms of the topic, I would say that this is about drawing and how this character became a cartoonist. So I would say the topic of the article is drawing. This is a pretty simple topic, but it gets the point across. I know that I'll be learning about drawing. If I wanted to take it a little bit further, I could include it's about how the author wanted to become a cartoonist. I'm going to preview question number 2. Restate in your own words what would happen if Martin was called on in school. This word restate in your own words reminds me of a term that I've been taught before, and that's called paraphrase. I'm going to paraphrase, which is restating in my own words. Let's look and see what happens when Martin is called on in school. I was somewhat shy when I was a kid. If I was called on in school, I'd stutter and stammer. Sometimes tears would even come to my eyes. There's a lot of things that are happening here. The tricky part is being able to put it in my own words. I'm going to start my sentence with, when Martin was called on in school, well, I know that one thing that would happen was that he would stutter and stammer, and sometimes tears would come out of his eyes. So this tells me that he was probably pretty embarrassed. So when Martin was called on in school, he would get embarrassed. And I'm going to add to this by listing some examples. So I'd say, for example, he would... How about you fill out the rest of this part? What are some of the things that would happen to show that he was embarrassed when he was called on? I may have also said that he would freeze up or that he would get really shy and not be able to participate. Let's now look at question 3. How did drawing help Martin with his shyness? Let's keep reading until we get to question 3. And I didn't think I was very good looking. My hair was always in disarray, I didn't have any cute freckles, and my nose was a little long. In other words, I didn't think I was as attractive as some of my friends were. One thing I could do, though, was draw. So when I was in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, that was how I could get the girls to take notice of me. I had a sense of humor, and when I'd draw little cartoons, the girls would look at what I was drawing. Some of them would even ask me to draw for them on their notebooks. All right, I'll pause right here and answer this question 3. How did drawing help Martin with his shyness? I'm going to start the frame for you, and then you'll answer the rest of this question on your own. So I would say, drawing helped Martin be less shy because... Go ahead and complete the rest of this frame on your own. If you need to pause so that you can do that, do so, and then resume the video when you're ready. Okay, if you're ready to move on, let's go to question number 4. Question 4 asks us to summarize part 4 in our own words. We'll need to reread this section all the way up until stop number 4, and then we'll be ready to answer question 5. Underline the central idea of the article in part 5, okay? So we'll look for part 5 and we'll underline or circle the main idea of the article in this section. Go ahead and do questions 4 and 5 on your own. So I'm going to write a little note for you here. These are on your own. You must have the answers to these questions. If you skip these, we'll know that you're just copying down what we write instead of using your own brain to think about this article. Do questions 4 and 5 on your own, and when you're ready to move on, we'll talk about the main idea and supporting details of this article. Okay, great. Let's now think about the main idea and supporting details of this article. I found a lot of evidence as I was working, and actually found something in this article that really gives me some clues about the main idea. I found this part of the article here that I put an asterisk next to during our first reading. That was how my career got started. I liked to draw. So as a main idea, I could start by saying that the author's career began because he liked to draw. That's a pretty good main idea. It tells me who the article is about and what the main point or the most important point of the article is. Now, it's your job to find 3 supporting details that back up the main idea that I have provided. So you're looking for details that support how the author's career began and how it was motivated by the fact that he liked to draw. You'll need to go back through the article, perhaps even rereading it, in order to find these 3 supporting details. When you finish finding the supporting details, resume the video for the next instructions. Okay, you've now completed our practice with main idea and supporting detail. You have 5 questions in your exit slip to complete. Please read each of the passages in the exit slip and answer the question about the main idea. Once you've done so, you've finished with the lesson for today, and you may go on Read 180 for some bonus time on the software. Remember that if you have questions during this time, to raise your hand and to make sure that you're working independently and staying focused so that the other students in this class can do the same. Thank you for participating in today's video lesson.